Hi, here's another video. I hope you like it. And I'm gonna be covering a couple of subjects I have to cover. So stick around, and you might enjoy the moment. It's gonna be a long video, so I have a lot of topics to uncover, and yeah, I hope you like it. So the way that I see capitalism and capitalistic societies, I know that words are very deceiving, and sometimes we pretend to be on one side and we opt by the other. Like, for example, like, you're gonna call me a big capitalistic prick for holding something, selling some, for example, promoting a fucking vape. So don't take me as a like perfect nomad, because I'm not. I always lived my whole life. I lived in big cities. I always took all the commodities of modern society, and probably as anyone watching, I've always lived my life like that, without really questioning it very much. I mean, besides having undiagnosed mental diseases that even psychiatrists can't begin to understand, rather as well like the normal citizen or my parents or whatever. But besides that, I have my artistic material, and I've studied social science and psychology and business management in Open University. Each degree I dropped out after 1 year, and even in art school in Portugal, where I went to art school and did my art degree and all that, and then went to college, and then went to university for art design, for product design, and then dropped out again for family and mental health related purposes. And so basically, I never actually, even then, I never actually got very, like, very, very comfortable with teachers, and so basically, I never actually fit in any sustainable, what you call it, normalized life, and I always was the freak, so to speak. I'm gonna cover this going forward, so I'm not gonna get ahead of time. But I just want you to know that I'm not perfect, and that shouldn't be an excuse to open up about things. And because I'm allowed to speak up and have a platform to do it, I will probably change my ways. Myself, so I'm willing to change, and I don't think like any nicotine, for example, is good. Any nicotine devices or cigarettes end up like really just slaving me and having problems with my mental health after doing that, because like, then I blame myself and try quitting, and then I became a different person than I'm actually normally, or I'm just for example, when I got a letter and the institution I'm housed with saying you're gonna have to leave the property, that was a trigger to start smoking cigarettes. If not to do crack and cocaine and all the rest, and alcohol, which I'm lucky not to get into. But like, yeah, I guess that the quantic fuck that we live in is just like pushing unnormative behaviors to become criminal and become junkies and become alcoholics and become the worst part of themselves in general. So I just I am trying to understand why that happened so that I can save my own life. I don't want. So basically, I want to cover this up I want to cover a lot of topics, and it's gonna be very confusing to hear me if I'm getting ahead of the subject. But to this, I want to say that I'm not actually seeking attention for the sake of seeking attention. I want to seek attention as an artist. Okay, let's just start with that. I want to seek attention as an artist, as for example, another artist in history tried to call the the people that are in charge to action to actually change. And so basically you need to have a repertory, a actual a material, an art and other, like in music for example, and other sorts of resources to be able to do what I do. I I tried starting off with that, but I felt incomplete. So I then went to a lot of art processes and struggles in my life to be able to have to regain my liberty back in order to do the art that I want to be doing. And in fact, I never felt like I could be the best artist I could be because of the society restraints and limitations that they put on me, and the attempts to make turning people like me and me into criminals and to lawbreakers and outcasted monks. I want to reach out, and I want to make a change, and I want to change myself as well, and I'm trying to do so by saving my own life. I know that you could twist the argument and and tune the argument against me because I'm putting my life out there. But that's another thick attempt of transphobia and racism towards me. So it just like it goes again. It goes without saying. A lot of people that I've met that I got mixed up with are just trying to kill me. Are just trying to put me in the spot. Are just trying to provoke suicidal behaviors, bad behaviors, smack and crack behaviors, and all that stuff. That probably they are actually into me and they are obsessed actually with me, but they don't understand me, and because they don't have the skills and the resources to actually understand me properly, they take what I say in the wrong way and the things that I do in the wrong way and the technology advances that we have in the wrong way. We're actually supposed to use them in order to exist, because if it's not in the internet, we don't exist, and we're back to Middle Ages. Back to putting restraints on protests, and for example, being enforced vaccines in your body means that you don't even have a decision in your own body in what to say and what to inject in your own body. For example, that proves that you're losing your own will to do what you want to with your body. Your body is a temple. You're not supposed to be forced to do anything inside your temple. Yes, it could. I'm in favor of a lot of medical advances because that puts an end to a lot of diseases that were horrible and disgusting, and people were dying and all that. But in recent years, that isn't the case, and it's not virology, and it's not based on virology, and it's not based on actual medical reports and the exams and the tests and all that stuff. It's just another sad excuse of like popularity control, population control, and just massive oppression against the actual cell of the human being and the actual construct of a human being, physical and molecular, and it just in the end of the last couple of years, I was just like, I was lucky to be housed because they found an opportunity to do something good, but the bad side of the coin is just so big that either I was quiet and obedient to it and I got the support I needed, which is just giving me a place, a place to be. The other one is sharing places with people that I don't want, having people in my life who aren't psychiatrists, who aren't psychologists, who is just staff, rude staff, or staff that don't want to see me naked, staff that just goes in and minds my own business with an uprighteous supremacist nose, and if I have a cigarette outside of the fucking ashtray, they tell me to pick it up. And for example, if I'm painting and I ruin the fucking floor or something, they made me homeless, or even encourage having destruction around and don't do anything about it, or in either extremes. It's just like just I don't know, and having other people who have horrible, disgusting habits and don't want peace and quiet when I actually just, for example, I want to be cutting wood in God knows what time in the morning because I'm cold and I want to fucking do a fire in the fireplace, for example. That's something that is good for my mental health. And if I have someone downstairs that needs to go to a job or has a normal schedule for sleeping, I'm respectful towards them. So let's put that aside and start by mentioning what I want to say. Capitalism underpaid. Capitalism underpaid, I think it never got spoken enough. I think it's disgusting how we treat artisans and independent artists that have the skill to make products that are so basically they are respecting themselves and the environment. For that, you need to pay them a lot. And so basically, the few that have the money, they are keeping that money so that they can underpay their workers to make the products that we have today. And because of that, we actually don't question anything, because the social injustice that would come from paying the person making this product would have been taken from the unskillful and ignorant citizen, and we want that social injustice in the Western societies and developed countries to be resolved. So basically, the people that have the investment money and hold the riches and wealth for themselves in a big pot of gold, those people, they are prized as winners in life, as strong members of the community that purges social injustice to the unskillful, ignorant, obedient citizen. And by that, the rest of the world has to suffer. And the actual skillful artists and artisans that, for example, in the past used to, have shops for shoes, for clothes, for this, for that, for even food, for different things. And even farming. It used to be just organic farming. It doesn't require a label. It didn't require any label. It was just agrochemical and food revolution that bring the necessity to do that, because they destroyed the soils, deserted the soils with agrochemicals, and then had to move on to other soils and just deserted the one that they left behind. And it's just, the whole thing is just so unsustainable. The farmers nowadays have mental health dementia, mental health diseases very early in life. They end up losing their crops because if they get a virus in their crops, the whole of their farm dies. It doesn't have it doesn't have many. So it just has corn, it just has soy, it just has all this for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of coverage, and they all just like have the best mechanical advances, so they can grow as much as possible, and just that one crop of soy, or just that. So all of them have this in common, and they end up losing all their investment, which they are in debt with the government by being subsidized in the beginning, and then having to pay back all their life. Once they get a virus or a disease in their crops, the whole crop dies, and they end up committing suicide, because all their investment and all their debt is going to put them in jail or put them behind bars, and they're going to lose their families, etc. This goes along with meat factory farms and fish farms. All of the food that we make today is a complete scam. It's just a subsidized while it's starting, and while the food is coming to their shelves on the supermarket, while everything is good, then it's all good. But once the consequences won't come to the subsidized governments that do this, and they will all come to the people selling the food and producing it. So the farmers are the ones they're gonna have to deal with the consequences, and that is just an increase on suicide between molecular and transgenic farms. They all have this in common. There's an increase in suicide, there's an increase in mental diseases, and all the consequences from this go to the farmers and the farmers' families. It doesn't go to the governments. The governments don't go like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, we want these farmers to be subsidized for losing their crops. No, it's their mistake. They have to pay for it. They have to go to the normal channels of support, and that is by killing themselves. There's nothing for them then. And this is still happening today, and it's going to continue for the next centuries, because the people in charge are completely they have no consequences of their actions. They're like children. They have all the money they can possibly invest on actual going back to the principles of polycultural farms, where if they have a virus, the other crops are still there, and they help the other crops to grow back after they die, because they caught a disease. So if, for example, the strawberries die, the pumpkins are still growing, and the corn is still growing, and the coriander is still, everything else is still growing, just that one dies. If it was just one crop of corn, then the whole thing would die. The farmer would kill himself. The families would be in homeless, and the governments would take their property, and that's basically the world we live in. It's just an unjust social behavior by the people in charge, who don't have anyone to sue them for what they do, and actually blame them for their faulty behaviors and their unsustainable practices. We see this in all documentaries that you can possibly search, but you don't actually want that, because you live in a Sleeping Beauty bullshit. So basically, you don't actually give a shit about anything. You just buy the things that you see, and you're fine with that. Maybe you feel a couple times that the things that you buy are a bit unjust, and you buy some organic shit. But that's basically as much as the protest or whatever that you're gonna fucking do. You know, I mean, then you have the vegan protesting and all that, but that doesn't even cover it. So what I'm doing now is, I think, the most direct approach to actually bring them to fucking justice, because the normal justice system wouldn't fucking do shit. The normal protesting system wouldn't fucking do shit. The normal consumer wouldn't do shit. Anything wouldn't do shit in comparison to what I do. So I'm not actually calling for action for anyone, but like, if anyone has something to say that actually has something to back it up in the facts that we'll see today, I suggest that you actually speak out about it in your own terms. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. Probably will make a lot of mistakes, like I have, because you are a human being, and that's what makes you human. But if you just go and protest in a massive crowd, and it's like that's what the people in charge want you to do, your voice gets lost in the middle of the crowd. You don't actually mean anything by being there. You just go there for a laugh, for regaining some comfort out of the way you're living, and you're not actually recognizing the real problem there. You're just going to a brainless crowd of people protesting about the fires in the Amazon, and like, oh great, we're just like, you know what I mean? But then we don't hear the individual voices, and for example, the problem with Extinction Rebellion is that they don't want personal change. They want massive crowds of brainless people going around, and like headless chicken basically going around, and that is a program that even these institutions are in favor and want to. So they make this lifestyle, this unsustainable lifestyle, acceptable to the regular brain dead citizen, and make them feel comfortable or less guilty. So basically, even the people then in meat free or animal rebellion, for example, they will put up protests, but then they will have palm oil products and all etc. And then they will go to the supermarket and buy a transgenic soy palm oil burger that burns like God knows how many fucking endangered species in the Amazons and Indonesia and all the places where they burn forests to grow the palm oil, because the palm oil can only grow when the forest is burnt, and it has only the nutrients that it needs to grow when a forest is burned, because it provides a lot of nutrients to the palm oil, so the palm oil grows, and it grows in a very rapid way. That's why it's cheap, and it's the cheapest oil that you can buy in this planet. And once that was mainstream, once that was done, with that actual documentary that spoke about it, I saw it personally, and I can't even understand why it's not on Netflix, because they remade it, and they made a stupid version of it which doesn't actually tell anything about it, and you can't actually bring change if you don't if you don't have it available. So this is just gonna come back to humiliate me, and or anyone that wants to speak about this. It's like the vaccines and the COVID, and mainly just every arrogant fucking injustice in this world. It's just the actual problem is trying to uncover or put a stop to every person who tries to actually bring the resources to the people, and remaking or making a Hollywood film about some bullshit Grinch that doesn't have parents and something like that. It just pushes me. When I watched the new Grinch remake bullshit, I wanted to kill myself. It was literally what I wanted to do. I wanted to kill myself. I don't want you to watch it, because it's absolute fucking suicide provoking bullshit. It makes you want to kill yourself, and it just, I'm sorry, you shouldn't watch that if you want to survive in this planet. But anyway, the first Grinch, it's good. The new Grinch remake is a suicide provoking shithole, and I hope the people that did it die a miserable death. And so basically, I've noticed that in my life, when I was doing weed, I had a realization. Everything I do is a slave instinct that I have for being abused. And generally, I would have just been, if I wasn't abused and provoked to commit suicide and think horrible things and speak out about them, I would just not do anything. I would just be okay sitting by a fire, for example, in the middle of the woods, having a nice company around, or my parents or whatever. But because I've always been abused, including my parents abused me, and all the companies that I have were abusive and toxic and wanted to objectify me by being my partner, or having me as a sex boy or a rent boy or whatever. I always had toxic thoughts and toxic things in my body that provoked me to act, provoked me towards working, towards doing something, towards waking up, standing up about it, about doing something. And all of that is just a slave instinct. It's just provoked by some miserable, sadistic person. And I don't like living my life like this. I feel like if I was left alone and the planet was left alone, and we go back to sustainable practices and sustainable farming practices, etc., I would have maybe my own couple crops, a shelter, nice company, a fire, and that would be my life. I wouldn't have to resort to this. I wouldn't have to engage in anything and stand up and act and work hard and have horrible behaviors towards people, hating people, doing all sorts of things because I'm angry, because all of these things is not me. It's a slave instinct. Somebody else planted that there. Somebody else provoked me to do this work for them. To work for them, basically. It's not actually work. It's not like I'm in a mine. I'm in a mine working somewhere, or in a factory in India, inhaling chemicals from shoes and so on and so forth, and being paid a bread a day. It's not that. It's basically a slave instinct that comes from within to act about it, to do something about things. That is for me a loss of liberty. I don't feel like it represents me. I feel like it's just provoked. It's just forced. It's a forced lifestyle. It's a forced attitude towards life that doesn't represent me. I don't want to be sitting here, clicking in a video, and showing how articulate I am, how good I improved in English from the past 3 years since I immigrated here, how how open I've been to this injustice, to the reality of the world, in missing places in society where nobody actually thinks about. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the Grinch. I want to be myself. I want to be okay with the world I live, with the community I live in. I want to be that. I want to be left in freedom. I want to be left alone. I want to be left with the people, the right companies. I want to be left with the people that respect me. I want to be left in my own shelter in the woods with a bit of fire and the right company and sustainable foods that I can go and like maybe have my corpse, you know what I mean? Or have animals that live their whole life there. I don't have to kill them, I don't have to kill them. I wouldn't have to kill them. I would have them there, you know what I mean? But because of all these realities around organizations that are supposed to promote equality and sustainable practices, they just share the same principles as the people committing these practices, which is just brainless chicken walking around in crowds and fighting for climate injustice, systems change, not climate change, and that's just like brainless chicken behavior. It's not actually meaning anything, speaking out about anything, and it's not actually doing anything. Or in the next centuries or so, it's not going to provoke any change to happen. Because people aren't doing that from within, they're just doing it as a trend. And because people are doing this as a trend, we don't have, for example, independent, vegan, palm oil free, soy free, or if we have them, but people don't buy into it enough to survive for this business to survive, or we don't have enough attention around them because they really do need investing, and we do need to buy into that reality where we actually care about the ingredients of this but they are just so smart about it that maybe they leave it in a shelf for a couple of weeks, it doesn't sell enough, it moves to the next one, the cheapest one, the one that sells the most, the one that abuses more workers, the ones that explore the indigenous in the areas that they cultivate, the soy fields, and anything else that you can think of, the worst you can think of. It will eventually get there if nobody stops and be like, we need to invest in this, we need attention in this, general public needs to know this. Or if they don't need to know this, they need personal change to go home and know what to cook, know where these foods are coming from, even though if they're vegetables, they might be genetic modified to beaten and just be awful to your body and be awful to the planet. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it's a vegetable or a piece of meat. You're still causing environmental disasters by buying them because of the way they're grown. Okay, and this is something. This is a level that we haven't even started to get to at the level at the awareness level that we're living today, which is really low, which is really really low. So then I have to go. I have to keep talking about something else. So I do need. I knew that it's gonna take a lot more time to speak about these subjects that I'm gonna dedicate. But I need to move on to the next subject, and it's not going to be related. So it's just going to be a bit confusing to understand why I'm going to move to the next subject. But that's why I need to move on. Okay, so psychiatric Indians. So basically, I do believe that, for example, Frida Kahlo. The reason why I put a unibrow today and I put some makeup and a wig was because of Lacuna. Lacuna means an unfulfilled space, a gap, a cavity. So basically, in Spanish, it means a cavity, depression, whatever, a missing an unfilled space, a gap. So lacuna in Spanish it means a gap, and it's a book written by Barbara Kingsolver, and I wanted to dedicate that one. That I want to suggest to you to read this book, as it changed my life forever, and it's very strikingly needed in the days and age that we live in today, to read this book, as it's been discarded. Our history has been discarded, and our human history has been discarded as well. So it does mention in this book the atrocities committed to indigenous Indians at the time of the colonial times. And by the time that it was written, it was just the time of Industrial Revolution or World War II. And I can't remember if it was a he or she. I think Alison Shepard. I think it was a he, yeah. And from reading it years ago in high school, was 4 years ago. So don't blame me for not having the facts straight. But yeah. So basically, I've read this book in a very important time in my life. When I was very socially isolated in high school, and against all the teachers' preaches and concepts of art. I've actually evolved during that time, and it was very important to me to have that mindset and a revolt against their attitude of satisfying the imperialistic shit that we live in our world, and we still live today. And the artists that were important in the past, nowadays they are just like dying. They're just killing themselves. They're not even given the opportunity or the light that they need to create their art material, because we have people like this, like me, selling advert revenue for cyber rich companies like Google and Facebook, and that money doesn't come to us. We are just expected to bend down and be abused by every Tom, Dick and Harry that we come across, while they're getting cyber rich on our behalf, and everybody considers themselves to be an artist because they put selfies on Instagram, while the actual artists that need attention are being quieted and silenced and blocked, and every consequence that you can think of the new age artists and new independent age artists are having that, and they are having that quietly. So yeah, the internet isn't helping, and most people that I met, I think they are very egotistically obsessed with me, and at the same time want to meet me, date me, and kill me, and having me do the job for them. So I'm just forced to kill myself. I don't really want to kill myself. This is again the slave instinct. This is just pushing me to killing myself because of the slave instinct, because of the provocative behaviors. It's not something that I want. I just want to be left in a shelter in the middle of the woods with my fire and my little sanctuary animals and my little farm, my little crops. I don't want to be pushed to killing myself by the person fucking me to death or in my life as a partner or etc. So basically this is just deranged. It's just something that I don't really understand why. But coming back to psychiatrist Indians, if you think about it in a critical way, psychiatrists are the only ones who are allowed to have a social interaction similar or close to what the indigenous Indians' lifestyle would have been if they wouldn't been desecrated and mass murdered. The psychiatrists, and we learn from them as well. So I pretty much believe that they got their idea of psychiatric analysis, etc., from the Indians, because they already were very advanced in their cultures. They didn't have ranks in society, so a lot of things indicate that these cultures were very advanced in their own specific, unique way. And because of that, I think that we still remain with the same with the same crystallized information about them. But because we mass murder them and we live the lifestyle that we live today, a modern lifestyle that we live today, those resources are just available to the psychiatrists. For example, you as a psychiatrist are allowed to have an interaction and a connection with anyone, with people that are actually opened and in the mindset of somebody who is vulnerable and wants to be characterized as everyone else, as a whole, and is in that kind of mindset that I think it relates. I think that the psychiatrists can come any close to the way native Indians would have lived all those years ago, in our modern time, in our modern common behaviors. So I think that they are the ones that are allowed to have those liberties of having a human contact and a social interaction, a normal human social interaction with people of the community, if you think about it. So I think, but the thing they're locked and safe, so nobody else has that ability to just sit down and have an interaction with people of the community like psychiatrists do. And they also acquired another thing, which is the financial and liberty authority upon them. So they sit on a authority hierarchy place where they dictate sort of their way, the way that the construct of that conversation is going to go down. So I think there's two sides of the coin or the sword. It is the only way to um, it's the only way to help some people, and also by doing so, we are giving the privilege for these authority figures in society to regain a very a very strange and missing aspect of society, which is social connectivity and everybody's equal. So I don't think that that exists everywhere else. I just think that psychiatrists are given those liberties and those privileges unfairly, because I think everybody should have that privilege. I don't think it should just be given to psychiatrists. And redneck objectifying. So, like I said, a lot of people, young people, have feelings for me and relate to me in a very deep way. And in a way, a lot of young people are obsessed with me. But because of the way they grown up and being abused and traumatized, they lost empathy, like I have, but they don't understand because I read books about psychology and psychiatric information isn't available to everyone. It's especially like you have to pay £100 to read this information. No, it wasn't 100. It was more than £100. It was £100. But it's infinite amounts of money. 3-stick psychology, Francis and Tyler. We can't access that information unless you pay readers of money. And so basically, when you are traumatized, you lose empathy towards people, and because of that, those behaviors were engraved in your unconscious, and because you suffered that throughout the beginning of your life, and it characterizes who you are today. And it's not that I bring back, for example, my father abuse, or my brother abuse, or my domestic abuse from 3 years ago, or this and that and this and that, and I bring that to the people that maybe don't want to hear it, and people who want to have a normal interaction with me and don't want to be bothered with traumatic subjects all the time, you know what I mean, and this and that. This is another subject that has been bothering me for a long time. I've understood the way that the people live. They are actually obsessed with me, not just physically, but intellectually, because they deny that part of themselves, and they understand how difficult it is to access that part unconsciously, and that's why they feel attracted by my person, by my character, but at the same time, they feel guilty about it. So I can say they, at the same time, are kind of redneck, and they objectify me, and they don't want to have it in when they are talking to them, what I have to say, and what I have to think about, and all that stuff. They don't want to hear it. And they know I'm like that already. That's why they're obsessed with me. But at the same time, they want to objectify it, and they want to treat me like an object, and so that they don't have to deal with that problematic stuff, and they don't want to hear it, but they don't want to have it, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's like they're obsessed with me before they met me, so that, you know, for example, they go online and they receive all this stuff and all this, too much actually, too much information about me. They even talk about me in my back, but they at the same time are redneck that objectify me, and they want me as an object. They don't actually want me as a person with flaws, as a person with problems, as a person with trauma, as a person with struggles, as a person with mental illnesses. They don't want that. So they still are very obsessed and informed, and constantly they're obsessed with me. I could be attracted to them as well. So I'm pushed to surrender. I'm pushed to oblige to what they want from me. But at the same time, what they want from me is not what I want. So it will end up in a mental health episode where I'm self-harming and wanting to kill myself and having suicide attempts. I'm being disgusted at every fucking behavior, everyone, and everything. The amount of fucking chicken shops are just unbelievable. It's just like everywhere you go, you can pay £1 for 1,000 chicken, but at the same time, it's like I want to be actually anoretic at this point because I don't feel motivated enough to cook, and I don't feel motivated enough to buy into this crap of selling cheap shit like that and not even caring. Just like there's no alternative, there's no place you can go unless you know as much as I do about all the ingredients on the item you're buying, or you buy everything with the most resourceful fucking information they can possibly have about biology by having a biologist in your family. I mean, my mom is a biologist, imagine that. Like, I really have the resources right there. Like a radio, 24/7, when I was living with her. And it's like, if I wasn't that person, if I didn't have that person as a 24-hour radio, telling me exactly what is happening when you go to a supermarket and what you see. Maybe, to begin with, my mom wouldn't even go to the typical supermarket. She would go to a independent making, farming, biologic, organic supermarket and store. It's just an independent store. She would never go to a regular supermarket because she would detest it, and she would not allow anyone to give us anything from that supermarket unless it was in secret. And I hated her for it when it was happening, because I would just go to the fridge and see all these unattractive foods, while the flashing images of tasting burgers and chicken and this and that and takeaway pizzas and casseroles or God knows what else, donuts, all that stuff, which we don't even pay attention to the fats in them, because the actual fact that we blame the sugar, a sugar is not a fat. So the fat actually causes a lot more problems than sugar. Like, but okay, sugar is bad, but the sugar itself has to be looked at. It can't be looked at as a problem. It has to be looked at as, for example, if it's unrefined, if it's refined sugar or unrefined sugar, how much sugar it is, and to be honest, like, you can have in moderate amounts of sugar, and that's okay. Maybe if you have loads of sugar, it would cause a problem, but that wouldn't be itself the main cause of the problem, or the cause of the disease itself would come from actual other problematic substances, like the fats that we put in sweets, for example, and we don't talk about them. We just talk about sugars cause illnesses, we don't go and say what fats are we consuming. Maybe those fats are causing the illnesses, not the sugar. But the way we narrate the problem is so limited that you can almost expect that to be the root of the problem, the actual misleading information, and not the sugar or the things they come up with, like no carbon. Carbon is everywhere. It's in your body. It's in a brick. It's in the air. It's in everything. Is made of carbon. So if you say you don't need carbon, it's like you disappear or something. It's just, oh, you don't need carbons like a sugar or flour. It's like, but everything else is made of carbon. Like, I don't know what you came up with, fucking carbon, but like eating rice isn't making you sick. Your mind is messed up, and that's what the root of the problem is. I don't really think it's helping saying you this, telling you this, and it's not gonna help you. It's dangerous to say it. But to be honest, I'd rather have you being in comfort with your situation in this matter than going around saying ridiculous, fucking deranged, unsustainable things, or confusing things about the environment or the foods that you eat, because it's just a fake attempt of actually caring about yourself. You're just hating yourself while eating loads of donuts. And maybe the cause of the problem isn't sugar. Maybe the cause of the problem is the source of the fats that those sweets have. But in the end of, with all fairness, it won't change the fact that the root of the problem is maybe emotional. Is an emotional discharge addiction, and not really knowing that, well, you're getting that fat because of the fats that the sweets have, and the type of fat that they have, and the type of sugars that they have, and all the environment and sustainable disasters that it causes, or people in hunger in countries and you having to throw away loads of fucking food. Like, it just, so basically let's come up with better things than treating me like a redneck, objectifying, obsessed asshole, because that's what the youth has turned into, in my opinion, in my personal life experience. And I'm left alone. I'm trying to survive, and we are social beings, and I can't survive in that atmosphere, in that habitat, where the air is so thick I can't think, I can't speak, I can't have an opinion. You have the fucking sociality, you have the fucking social connectivity, while I'm there seated down, being quiet, or forced to smile, or forced to engage in small talk, and forced to do this, and forced to bend down and be abused by being silenced, by not having an opinion, by not mattering, basically, while I actually do, because the internet exists, so I exist. If it didn't exist, I wouldn't have existed. And because it exists, it exists, so you come to me expecting that you can just burn that all away and have a small talk with me, because you don't know anything I've done, but you're obsessed with me, and you know what I've done because it's public. You can just go and access this. It's not like I hide it, you know what I mean? By the opposite, I put it out there, so it's not my fault that I'm putting stuff out there in order to survive the social injustice. As a transgender person or not, it doesn't matter. It just anyone that thinks like this will be outcasted, will be forced to surrender when they try and engage with you, and they try and twist an argument and be insultive and all that in order to have a small talk with me. And at the end of the day, I'll be remembering it, and I'll be, oh my God, when on Earth in the next 8,000 centuries is this going to change? That's what I'm gonna think about. You know what I mean? But does it get to me? Probably not. You know, the fact that I mentioned chicken and you mentioned cheap chicken, does it get to me? No. Does it saying tranny or this or sugar or fats or cheap chicken or housing or being evicted or this and that or being an angel or being a old and dark mind or being an immigrant or being antisocial, or does it any of these get to me? No. Oh, I tried doing the same as you and it didn't work. I tried being an artist and it didn't work. Does it get to me? No. I have the same problems as you. I'm a human being. We're writing the same history. Why do we need to be so divided all the time? Does this have to carry on? Why does this injustice towards skillful members of the artistic and environmental aware people has to continue? Why does this injustice has to continue? Is my question. Then if it's not in the internet, it doesn't exist. So this is just meaning that in real life, nobody can actually make a change because it doesn't exist. Nobody will hear you, and I don't agree with this. I don't think that everyone has to put stuff outside of their body or their life or it has to go online in order to matter. I don't think that should be the case. I think things shouldn't carry on like this. It's already 1 hour. And I'm halfway through. But I think things can't carry on like this. It definitely can't. It has to matter in real life. Things have to matter in real life. The way you live matters to me. It might not matter to the general public, but it matters to me. The things that you say to me, even not being recorded, it matters because the abuse that is targeted to me doesn't happen on video. It happens on real life. So that means that not having an abuse matters as well. So that's really important to make that point clear. It shouldn't matter just because it's online, and it does. That's the reality we live in because of the internet, and I don't think that's fair. Transgender surgery and being attractive to the straight, like okay. Let's put this clear. Let's put this out there because I think it's been around for 50 years, not even enough to actually matter for anyone that much. But transgender people are basically not taken into straight normative issues because they are not attractive to them physically. And this is just the truth. This is just a fact. I mean, they will just tell you if they don't say. I mean, if a strange character comes to you and say, if you start speaking to them, like if you give them some food and be like friends with them and start talking to them, they would be like, I'm not into that. But it doesn't matter if you say it or not, really, in this situation. It just matters what you think, and the fact that you're not attracted to transgender people because of the way they look and their appearance as a man, or the way they have been born as, and because they haven't transitioned probably or possibly, quite possibly haven't transitioned in the world that we live in today, because it's very rare. Yeah, this is the problem. They wouldn't be attractive to you, straight person, because they didn't have access to the surgeries. Because they are attracted to the opposite sex. You are attracted to the opposite sex, and because they're not allowed the surgery, they can't be female or men. And you obviously don't feel attracted to the same sex. So, what to you is the problem here? I don't even think that the problem is meaning you don't feel attracted to the same sex. Obviously, you don't. The problem is they're not. They just don't. They don't matter to you because they're not attractive to you. And with that said, we are still not heard. We are not. We don't receive the surgeries. So what else can we do exactly? Nothing. We experience the social injustice, and we won't matter to you because in reality you just care about objectifying women. To be honest, I'm not. I don't even want to be a part of that. So I don't really care that you don't give us the chance to be attractive to you, to the opposite sex. I think it's a hypocrisy, a cluster of fucking hypocrisy the size of the fucking platonic shit that you have in your head. And I think that, I don't know, you should have a grasp of what it means to me. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't even actually surprise me. It's not surprising. It isn't surprising. It's not that I hate straight women or men. I just think when they speak, it's too loud for me mentally. Even if they speak quietly, or if their voice is attractive, I just find it very loud. And sometimes I just let them know that, please, I want you to stop speaking. It's too loud for me mentally. Then they go away. And I say thank you, kindly. Yeah. But even gay people hate us. They don't feel attracted to what we're doing to ourselves, to transition, because we're in the midst of being opposite sex. So we would have to remove all the earrings, all the clothes, all the makeup, all the wigs, and even then we wouldn't be attractive enough for them because they want the social as the validation that comes from dating the same sex. So even then, you wouldn't receive that validation. So it's a paradox, a very unjust paradox indeed. So that's regarding facial feminization surgeries mostly, because it requires social connectivity, and changing my genitals wouldn't do that. You wouldn't have access to physically have any social connectivity with my genital if I changed it to a vagina or a penis. All the people being picked up by care homes for asking for ashtraying in the sink. I work in a care home for half a year, and I've seen enough reports of how their customer service, how they're picked up to be in their care homes, to be offered their services, and to know that it's basically just gathering Jews for the gas chambers. It's basically that. They have basically people checking on them because they are given a social housing, like the ones that I'm being offered now. And I've seen the reports of like people, basically a old, very capable individual who was who I was working with, and I saw his report. So basically the reason he's there is because he ashtrays in his sink in his own life, in his own apartment, and apparently that could cut the whole apartment on fire for some reason. I don't know how they made that misconception, and the flat was a bit filthy. So basically, if it was for them to do the same thing, they would put me in a care home if I was a bit older. And he's not that old. He completely has all mobility. Does he have? Did he? I can't even remember if he had eating disorders. He probably had eating disorders, but regarding to eating disorder, maybe he needs a person to cook for him. Does he had someone to cook for him? No, he was taken to a care home with elder people with dementia, from 80 to 100 years old, when he was absolutely capable to live by himself, except the ashtray and maybe the cooking, which is absolutely disgraceful. It's just absolutely disgusting to think of. Why was he there? The care home had 3 floors, and he was on a very last one of it. He didn't get out of bed besides twice a day. He was in a complete depression, just watching TV all day, and no activity whatsoever. And there's a lot of care homes that pick up old men like that in order to dry their pockets, basically, take the advantage of them, institutionally abuse them financially, and just turning them into a depressive pill junkie, possibly. I think he was taking some drugs, some legal drugs, but I don't even think that matters at that point. If you're incarcerated with people who are in the end of their lives, and you have no liberty whatsoever. Literally, at the COVID where I was working during the pandemic, they couldn't leave. I had to go home and go back, but they wouldn't leave. And this person, absolutely capable of living his life, except maybe cooking. Even me, I am in the same situation as this man. I literally feel so similar to him. Like, literally, I feel like I have eating disorders. I'll probably need a friend to cook with me. Okay, I don't want someone to be employed by me. But I feel like if there was a reason to cook, it would have been with a friend, with someone who actually wants to be with me, having a nice time and cooking a meal. And I think a lot of people want that. but to the extent of like picking this man up because he ashtrayed in the sink, and his flat was filthy. It's literally, I mean, I'm in the same situation, and I don't want to be bothered to like clean my flat, and that doesn't mean that the building is gonna collapse. It just expressing how I feel, and it's my business if the flat what happens to the fucking flat where I live. If I'm given a place to live and I'm not allowed to live my life freely inside of it, what's the point of having a place to begin with? There's no point whatsoever. No point. And this happens to all 50 to 80 years old, completely mentally and physically capable of doing such, but because of their willpower and liberty, they choose and mental health, they choose not to cook. They choose not to eat. They choose not to clean their flat. And they choose to ashtray in the sink. This is what they are capable to do. And because of that, because you don't accept that behavior in society, you bind their business like it's your own flat, the place there you live yourself with your husband and wife, and you decide to pick them up, wind them up, and put them in a fucking gas tank for the rest of their life, a hibernation tank for the rest of their life. You prohibited this man and all of them to leave during the COVID pandemic. It's literally like he was in a prison. Like, probably now they don't do that anymore, but they did that for 2 years at least to this man. They picked them up and there you go. All your liberties, it's gone. And they did it to me as well because of my mental health and the way I think in my family. And I'm just 24 years old, so I was 19 then. And they do the same to this man and women who just can't be bothered to clean their flat. Like, how is that a thing from, like, how is that something that comes with age? It doesn't even come with age. It's just a principle that you're ignoring because you don't have any principles. You just want to make money off them. Can't be bothered. Older people, yeah. Suicide being looked up. Suicide being called, yeah. So basically, being locked up after you expressed suicide intent isn't the way to go with suicide. Obviously, as you know, everyone, suicide, yay. Don't lock us up. Don't lock us up. This person actually thought that they could lock me up for saying I want to kill myself online. I mean, if I was going to the police and I said I'm killing myself now, they would have put me in the hospital. They would, but I think even then they would probably I don't think they could lock me up, but like this person thought that would happen. So I'm just mystifying this. I don't think just being having freedom of speech and the First Amendment of like speaking. I don't think you can just say words and be locked up for it. It just any words that you say wouldn't change anything. And then it's like, oh yeah, words provoke actions, but like, why don't you try and change your own perception of of life and situation towards minorities and opinion towards minorities, why don't you try fighting for them instead of making sure that they don't commit suicide from a distance, from calling the police, from locking them up, from pestering them with mental health teams and all sorts of things that don't even have mental health support to begin with. They just yap their mouth about your own personal business and run their nose around your business like there's no tomorrow. And like to them, I just have to ask you: there's enough coke in the world for you to run your business, put your nose up in my business. Go and do coke instead, and leave me alone. That's what I have to say to that. Attention seeking, I already said that is for my survivors. And bad times are the dormant sleeping beauty bullshit that you see on TV. So, whatever people thought about me having a bad time or a consequence from my action of speaking up and having exteriorized pain into the building, having a filthy flat like the old man put up in a gas chamber, I am the same. I can't be bothered, I am depressed, and I have the right to be depressed and do whatever I want where I live. And it's the same thing. There's enough coke in the world to mind my business with your nose. You can go and do coke. Fuck yourself. Bad times, yeah. The range for Pussy Strong Man video. I did a music explanation of music creation about toxic masculinity. Is what it is, and they call me deranged for doing that as well. I also think that redneck objectifying man who say this to me, and that provoked me to have a slave instinct to say something about it and work very hard in music. They're doing me a favor, and they don't realize that isn't going to kill me as much as they wanted to kill me and me doing the job for them. I don't think that's gonna be the case with me because they're giving me a favor. As an artist, I feel like that's the resource that I need to create art and, for example, do this video and speak about social injustice that happens to me and my people and artists alike me and artists all across the world who aren't even given the chance to create and given the financial background or resources to create art. Why? Because we are satisfied in stress-free, carefree, art-free, capitalistic bullshit, and we sit behind a mask pretending to care for homeless people when we give them money, but we don't actually spend an evening with them, do we? We just go past them and say, how lovely, you're homeless, you're weak, I'm strong, I survive, you don't. And that's the hypocrisy. It should end.